Alright, welcome to today's YouTube video. I decided to do a comparison of 3 of my helmets from this past season. We run multiple cars in multiple different series and sanctioning bodies, and each one I use a different helmet just due to the style of the car. So we'll walk through the reason that I chose the helmet for whatever series that is or whatever car it is, and then compare some key differences between the two helmets. So we'll start off with the Simpson Venator. So this is what I use in closed cockpit sports cars. I also used this when I did my NASCAR test. But it's a carbon helmet. It's designed for sports car racing. So the actual opening of where the visor is a little bit wider. And you'll see that on this helmet that it's going to be a little bit smaller. But the reason for that is it's supposed to help out your peripheral vision, as well as being able to kind of just see up and down. Obviously with the visor opening being larger, it's better for those scenarios. Additionally, I chose this helmet, and I've run this helmet now, or Venators I should say, with Simpson for close to 10 years, if not at least 10 years now. The reason that I keep on running these helmets season after season is because Simpson's so good with putting everything that I need in the helmet. So when it comes to me, outside of getting the graphics and the design done on the helmet, it's ready to be used. And when I say that, it comes with all of the radio stuff, the Hans ports on the side here, the drink tube, and of course the top air flow. One of the things you'll see, I just mentioned the top air. These helmets, you won't see that on. The reason that we have this is because in the sports cars and closed cockpit cars, they get very warm inside, and any additional cooling that you could potentially have, you're going to want. And it's not like you get, super cold amount of air and it really cools you off. But it does take a little bit of the hot air that, obviously in the helmet exists, and it will just circulate a little bit of that, cooler air, a little bit of fresh air as well in there. Additionally, you'll see this has the radio stuff. This is actually the IMSA cable. The NASCAR one's a little bit longer because with this, you're able to have, the two-way communication between myself, my crew chief, and anybody else on the team that is able to talk to me or wants to talk to me, because they have a radio with them, whether that be spotters or whatever. The NASCAR one actually has an additional prong here, and the reason for that is so that NASCAR can come in and actually talk to the driver. Those ones, we have an adapter so you can go from IMSA to NASCAR, and we used that when I did my NASCAR test. Additionally, you'll see on all 3 of these helmets, I have the hood on the bottom of them. It's a Nomex hood, which means it's fire resistant. And the reason I do that is you have to, especially with the length of my hair, as well as having facial hair, you have to wear a Nomex hood underneath of the helmet to just protect your face and your neck. I don't personally like those. I had a bad experience on dirt with one. I flipped the car the night that I was wearing it. So since then, I've never wore a Nomex hood underneath my helmet. I've actually just used these which satisfy that rule. And that's pretty uniform across sanctioning bodies, that you have to do that. Another neat thing that you'll see on the helmet is this guy, which is to show if you're concussed or not. So if you're in an accident, or if you, get into the wall or another car, and this turns red, it means that you need to go to the infield care center and have them do concussion protocol. Now, the majority of sanctioning bodies, especially with sports cars, will take you immediately there if you're involved in an incident, but it's still a good thing to have. Additionally, with any of these helmets, the second that they're involved in an accident or if you drop them, we no longer use those helmets. So they get put on the helmet shelf and you get a new helmet. You'll see pretty standardly I run a very similar design, obviously depending on the car. With the T1 car, it's orange and blue, so the helmet respectively is orange and blue, and I try and keep the stars on top, pretty consistent theme. Trying to think what else. On this we have a drink tube because the car again is a closed cockpit T1 Corvette, so it gets very hot in there. We've run the mechanical ones of these, and then you have the ones that are just the sucking ones of these. I typically like the sucking ones because it's more controlled by me. And additionally, I never had it happen, but people have talked about with the mechanical ones, if the button gets stuck on the wheel or whatever, you just get dumped with Gatorade or whatever your drink of choice is for that race. This has been a really good helmet. Again, I can't thank Simpson enough for them being so cooperative and helping me out. They always overnight me all my stuff. And I really like this helmet. It shows that I've been running one of the Venators for the past 10 plus years. And I plan on using this helmet next season as well, just because I really enjoyed these helmets. We will now move onto the Camel GT helmet. So this is a bell, a little bit different, and you can kind of see the two. There's a little bit of differences. One, this is a lower helmet, doesn't have the top intake or air flow. And additionally, you'll see, as I had mentioned before, that the screen here, or the visor rather, is a little bit smaller. So this is an open wheel helmet, and I'm not using it for open wheel purposes, but for the car that we're running this helmet with, it's actually a Camel GT Corvette, so it doesn't have a roof. It's a very high horsepower, high speed car that has a windshield that comes up about that high, and then the rest of your body is exposed, which is primarily just your helmet. So there will be different things on this helmet that kind of help out with that. Reason that you wouldn't use something like this is, again, like I had mentioned, all of this, every time you turn your head, will affect the way the air is, and it will kind of shake your head and or helmet. And additionally, it doesn't plant your head down, and I'll get into that. With this helmet, you'll see it's very smooth on top, which helps with airflow, and then you have this duck bill on the back, which plants your head down. It's very important to have your head planted just because you don't want it to be wobbling around, especially checking mirrors and checking different things. Your point of reference during when you're in a straight line or at your most high speed, you're coming up on upper 175 plus miles an hour. You don't want your head moving around because it does fatigue your neck over time. Additionally, you'll see down here there's a what I would call they call it a spoiler, but what I would call it kind of like a chin guard, chin splitter, which will plant your head down, because the last thing you want to do is have your head pop up. I actually had that happen, not with this helmet on. I was running, I think, the Venator, but when I was in the T70 at Summit Point, it was a spider, and the entire time, the whole straightaway, my head kept on popping up like this. And that's one of the worst experiences, one of the worst feelings, because it's very hard to focus when your head just is bobbling around the whole time. Additionally, with this, it has the radio, and you'll see on these two helmets, most sports car drivers Velcro it on. It's just easier for when you're doing driver changes, or if you're not running an endurance race and you're just getting in and out of your car. It makes it easier to just, it's always in the same spot. You Velcro it, plug it in, it's usually on the seat or somewhere around. So that's just kind of a little trick. This helmet, we didn't put the cups in it, so I actually have molded ear plugs, which are wired, and they plug in to this. and that way my team can talk to me on the radio. I can also talk to them. So it still has a microphone in the helmet, but it doesn't have the actual speakers built into the helmet, which makes the helmet a little bit lighter, and as well, like, it was just something I wanted to try. With the Camel GT car, it has side pipes, so it's very, very loud, especially right near your left ear. And I wanted to try something that was a little bit better, a little bit closer to my ear. Even though the cups seal your ear, I still thought this was the move, and I'm happy with my choice. Additionally, as I had said, I'm very partial to the orange and blue, but that car is red, white, and blue like an American flag. So I did this American theme, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. The whole helmet itself is red, white, and blue, and I think it really looks good with running the car. It matches the car, and I really, really am happy with how this helmet turned out. Another thing is, because the helmet is for something that is not a closed cockpit car, this, you'll notice, one, I have a tinted visor on it, but number two is, you'll notice this has tear-offs. Reason being is, I like the tinted visor on the T1 car because for the majority of the time I can, if it's a sunny day, I can close it and you have that additional shading, but I can leave it open and have just a normal, especially with wearing glasses, it's kind of nice, you get some more circulation in there, and whatnot. Additionally, with going up to the grid, I usually have it closed like that because it kind of keeps the heat out of the helmet, especially with the fan going, and it's just kind of lets me get into my own space before a race, and clear my head and make sure I'm fully focused on the race that's at hand. So that's why I run a tinted lens or a tinted visor on this helmet. On this helmet, I only run a clear shield, and you'll see it has tear-offs because, again, you don't have a windshield in front of you, so you get tire rubber, oil, bugs, different things, diff fluid, anything that you can think of that comes out of a race car or is, out and about will affect this helmet. So throughout a race, you'll be having to take and, remove the tear-offs. This helmet has been really good. I've only run it for one season, but I'm looking forward to hopefully running it more. Next year we have a lot of big races coming up with this, so we'll really put it to the test at Daytona for the Classic 24, and it's a pretty slippery helmet, so I don't think that there's going to be any issue, but usually I bring a couple helmets with me anyhow, but I don't see that being an issue. I think this is exactly what I need for running the Camel GT car. Our third helmet here is what I run in the midget. So you'll see it's a lot different than these two, mainly because you're not seeing any of the radio stuff on it. Originally I was going to run this in the midget and on dirt until I was like, why am I doing that? These helmets are very expensive. Not that this isn't, but with the radio equipment in it and all of the extra items, these get very, very expensive. On dirt, you don't have two-way radios, so you don't need any of that in there. They do have a one-way radio, so you have a one-way radio setup that goes on. What I use in the midget is what we call a hybrid. It's basically, a backpack kind of scenario that secures your head with two straps. And then I just use the headphones and custom earbuds out of this helmet for this one. That way I can still hear that. Additionally, you'll see the midget's red, white, and blue as well. So the scheme on this is red, white, and blue. You'll see I don't run a visor strip on the top for this helmet, and the reason that I don't run a visor strip on top for this helmet is because I want that extra distance, because in a midget or in a sprint car on dirt, you need that extra line of sight. In a sports car, everything is very far out and everything's a lot bigger and things happen a lot slower. And it's not that I don't need to be fully aware of everything going on, but it's easier, especially with the sun and whatnot. It's easier to run with a visor strip, and I'm willing to take a little bit of, you know, maybe that much of my overall optical height away with this helmet, just because we do run in all sorts of condition in the sun and whatnot. On dirt, you primarily will, run starting in the afternoon, but you run into the night, and your races are at night. So the visor is clear. I have no visor strip, and again, obviously with the tear-offs, you're gonna have that. The other thing is on dirt, these helmets get really beat up. It's, on dirt, so you have dirt, you have different pieces of debris flying up and hitting you. You have, you name it will come up. So I didn't want to ruin this helmet, which is why I wound up acquiring the Speedway Shark. Back to, this is Simpson. So Simpson, put everything together. Granted, it doesn't have all the radio stuff or any of the cooling or drink stuff in it, and they overnighted it to me. We then got the graphics on it. My safety is the biggest concern. There's no amount of money that you can, try and save. Like, when it comes to safety, I hate to say an open checkbook, but you want to make sure that you're, safe and you're putting yourself in the best position. And I think truly that's why we went with 3 different helmets for 3 different things. This helmet pretty much stays in the hauler all times because it doesn't have the radio stuff in it, and it doesn't really have anything that you have to care about, like, temperature changes. Obviously I took it out for the winter because we're not running the car for 2-3 months, so there's no sense in it just staying in the hauler. But throughout the season, it pretty much just stays there because, like I said, it's good to have extra helmets, lying around, especially, one that is as versatile as the Speedway Shark. Additionally, I always wanted this helmet, and I've never gotten it before, and I'm really glad that I got it, especially with the midget. Like, I think it looks really cool, and it's a very neat helmet. Out of the 3 of these, I'm not really sure which helmet is more so me. I'm really happy, all 3 of them are my helmets, and I'm glad that I can do this kind of comparison. I hope that everybody really enjoyed it, and it kind of made sense as to what you would use different helmets for and what different applications. Thanks for tuning in.